You are listening to the Foamy Heads Podcast, where we discuss craft beer and anything else that accompanies a glass.
Foamy Heads are back, hanging out, sitting at the table. Mitch, we're drinking beer today. I got to probably put my phone on silent so I'm not actually sending notifications off. But it's a good day. We're drinking beer. We're hanging out in Springfield, Tennessee, right off Main Street, historic Main Street. We're at BS Brew Works today. We've got the co-founders / owners / people that do all the work, I think, in front of us. Bob and Shane, the B and the S, and BS Brew Works. What's up, gentlemen?
How are you?
We're here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, this is a good time. It's not bad drive either.
No, not bad at all.
Easy to get to.
Yeah, today is easy to get to.
Yes.
Yesterday was a different story.
Yeah. Okay, so we kind of talked about that a little bit before we all jumped on the mics, but you guys had some outages yesterday in the area, wind, water, and rain and things like that.
Yeah, it was a hell of a storm that came through.
Yeah. We were. They were clocking. I think the top wind clocked out at the airport here was around 70.
Woo.
Straight line. So yeah, it was a rough day. There's still a lot of people without power, and there are trees down everywhere and trash cans and in other parts of the city that shouldn't be there. So.
I know NES for Nashville. I just moved from Nashville and had NES, but now I'm in Murfreesboro and no longer with NES. But they had 112,000 boxes offline, and I don't know if that increased through the day, because that was at about 11 a.m. I think when I got that notification from is it Tennessee Severe Weather Twitter?
Yeah,
they do a real good job just keeping you updated. But
yeah, I think it got worse from there.
Okay, yeah, I'd imagine so. With 70-mile-per-hour winds, I don't know what Murfreesboro got. At the apartment I'm at, I could just see the grass blowing. Other than that, I was completely unaffected by the weather. But
you guys were okay, though, at least here at the brewery yesterday. You said you got a little bit of flickering, but it wasn't anything.
We had lost power for a couple hours.
Oh, okay.
So
all right. Beer was preserved.
Beer was preserved.
It was preserved.
Yeah. And then you guys got a chance to open up yesterday evening for food and beer, and then people just started coming in, I assume, because they had nowhere else to go.
That is correct.
Yeah. We were one of like 3 entities that managed to open last night, and with so many people without power, they were out seeking anyone who could provide food for them. So we happen to be one of those places.
Lucky you.
Yeah. Tell that to the kitchen crew this morning. They may not come back. I don't know.
So okay, good question. Food on site. Then you guys have a kitchen here.
Yes.
Okay.
We do.
And you're serving. I'm looking at up there right now, just like hot dogs, wings, nachos,
good stuff.
Oh yeah.
Food that goes with quesadillas.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it's we all traveled quite a bit as we were developing this concept and just looking at different menus, different setups in brew pubs and tap rooms all around the country, and looking at menus and the way we wanted to do things on the food side, because while we are fairly beer centric, having food for people and having good food will keep them in their seat a little longer, maybe another pint longer, or give us time to talk with them, walk them through different styles that we're offering at any point. And so we're fairly picky with what we've expanded some since we opened, but our pimento cheese is house made, our olives are house marinated, our beer cheese is house made. Every vegetable that comes out with those things are all hand cut by the kitchen, so they maintain a very high level of quality. So we kind of call it elevated pub grub. We don't do any fried foods. Even our wings are high temp convect baked, so they're nice and crispy but not greasy. So yeah, they do a fabulous job back there of drawing people in who might not necessarily come in, or certainly might not stay as long here in the tap room. So,
and there's not another one of these places around you guys either, right? I mean,
not in Robertson County.
Yeah, you guys are the only ones.
Only brewery, yes.
Now I knew you were the only brewery / like food area, but like there's no other breweries in Robertson County at all. You guys are it.
We are it.
We can find no history of. There's a lot of distilling history. I mean, Nelson's Green Bar obviously started in Greenbrier, Tennessee, not in Nashville.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've found no brewing history in the county.
Wow. Well, I guess it's a good thing we landed up here then, Mitch.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different beers in front of us today.
Yes.
Do we want to jump into the first one real quick?
Let's do it.
We'll let the experts tell us a little bit. This is the Bobcat Blonde.
Bobcat Blonde.
Yeah.
This is the Bobcat Blonde. What you have in front of you are kind of our 6 flagships, things that we keep on all the time. So the Bobcat is the lightest thing. When somebody walks in and says, "I drink X light," or they try to order, they'll just walk in and say, "I'll have a," and we'll say, "Well, we're a brewery, so everything here is what we brew. Let's see if we can find you something." And 99% of the time, that beer will fit them.
Yeah.
It's obviously got a little more flavor than X Light or
The X High
Ultra.
Life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But rarely is a person who simply says, it's too bitter for me, or because it's so far out of their wheelhouse, they just don't know how to handle it.
But it's funny. A lot of times they'll sit there and they'll say, "Okay, I can deal with it," and they'll drink the whole thing. And say, "Can I have another one?"
They're having a hard time dealing with it.
Yeah, a real hard time.
I don't want to admit that this is
yeah,
good.
but this is okay. I'll take
Still
another one.
mulling
of them.
it over.
Yeah.
I need another one to really know.
Just to make sure. Alcohol ABV on this one relatively low. I'm assuming around 4. I guess maybe I could just look up there. if I
5.1.
wasn't
5.1.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, very
Nice.
respectable, very nice, easy drinking, lots of flavor. You're right. This is the. This would be what I would consider, like if somebody comes in, like you said, "Hey, I'm not used to drinking craft beer. I'm used to drinking something else, but do you have something that's for me?" I could see this one as something that they would start off at because it's got a ton of flavor, but it's not, it doesn't like punch you in the face with hops, and it's not too
Right.
heavy and sweet. It's just an all-around good beer to drink.
It's easy drinking.
Yeah.
It's not too much of anything. That's what we tell people. It
Looks
it's our
real nice.
gateway to craft.
Yes, gateway to craft. Yes.
Was that kind of the reasoning for brewing something like that? Or or do you guys just have a palate for kind of the lighter side of beers, or are you brew? Because I asked that because brewers love to, real like hardcore brewers love to brew for themselves, but realize they have to brew for everybody else also. So sometimes you want to do this, but you realize you can't because it may not work. But other times you'll realize you hit a note with your customers and you want to brew it and they love it. So where does this fit in? Was this you call it a core beer? You brew it all the time, so it's available year
Yes.
round. This is for the people that just come in and want something to drink, right? That aren't used to drinking craft beer.
That is correct.
Yeah,
So
it's
Yep.
good.
It's
Yeah,
got a
it-
good color to it, and I didn't see the foamy heads or anything, but everything from what I saw or see or remnants of, everything had a good foamy head to it too.
I'm glad this one. I like this one.
But it is our number 1 selling beer in the tap room
Oh,
month to
excellent.
month. Now, oddly enough, our number 2 beer month to month is our West Coast IPA. So you've got
Complete
polar
opposite.
opposites.
Wow.
But they are consistently 1-2.
Yeah,
Man, that's so crazy.
And except for the Sunny Vanilla, this is the first one we kind of came up with just to target somebody, wasn't it?
It really was designed around just hitting a couple of people who really wanted to support us, but just won't, whatever, into the more intense, whether it be on the malt side, the hop side, the yeast profiles like a Belgian, something like that. So yeah, it's and it fell in with our naming convention. I'll mention that we set out to try and name things after local places, legends, anything like that, so we could really tie into the community. Plus, it makes it a little bit more difficult to run up against a trademark infringement.
true.
Because our Barren Plains Amber that you'll get to in a minute, it's named after a little farming community that's just north of town here.
Oh, wow.
The Washington Hall Wheat, and it's named after one of the 3 original Washington family estates that sits out more toward the central west part of the county. So the Bobcat Blonde, that's a Greenbrier. That's their school mascots.
Very cool.
Is the Bobcats. We have a pale ale. It's not currently on the board. That's named for the Yellow Jackets, which is Springfield cluster things. But that also leads to every other school system saying, well, when are you going to get, a Joe Burns Indians, blah, 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 or a Red Devil, or, for the Adams community. So
Opportunity for expansion.
opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the idea. It's because there's some crazy ass beer names out there, and believe it or not, some of the craziest names in the world have been used somewhere else already. Also,
Yeah.
so the fact that you're keeping it local definitely protects you guys from having to go back and rename something because you found out later on 100 miles away or whatever. Some other brewery has trademarked the name similar to it, and then you have to be the one to change the name.
Try 1,000 miles away.
Yeah.
Yeah. The 0.9 Pilsner, which is the next one you have up, we were originally called the Port Royal Pilsner because Port Royal is a historic area here in the county, borders between us and Montgomery County. Big covered bridge that was there for years over the Red River. All right, we'll name it the Port Royal Pilsner. Went out and did a search.
No, you
Nope.
won't.
Registered to a brewery in Central America.
Wow.
Because there is a famous port in the Caribbean that was called Port Royal. So
Of course there was.
can't do that. So that's the 0.9.
Okay.
I do enjoy how this one has a crisp and dryness to it. It just keeps me drinking, and this would go really good with those wings or nachos or quesadillas or almost anything on the menu.
This is
perfect.
like this is the beer you drink to get your palate ready for
Yeah.
like some good chicken
Yeah.
wings. So like this gets you in the mood to start eating and drinking beer.
Definitely.
There's a little bit of a I don't know if it's my palate or if this is intentional. There's a little bit of a corn finish on the end, at least for me. It's like a sweeter corn kind of, and I don't know if that's the part of the malt profile or if I'm just picking it up. My palate's off today, but that's what I'm getting.
There's a sweet lift. I don't know what it's been a while since I've really put out ingredients and brewed something at home, so I don't know exactly what to pick up on. where
Everybody
that
will taste
sweetness
something
comes
different.
from. Yeah.
Well, and and you say that's people will ask us, well, what does this taste like? Because you see descriptions all the time. The first time you pick up a beer, and we try to be very careful not to tell people because it's like the emperor's new clothes. If you tell someone, they don't want to admit they can't taste that, and so we, by and large, won't really intimate to someone, well, you should be tasting notes of blah 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 blah.
Right. Right.
Then they feel like they have to taste that.
Exactly. Or they're a failure.
Right. Right.
Okay.
One thing I've always loved about craft beer is just trying to guess where those flavors are coming from anyway, and not really worrying about the picking out what's in there, especially from a consumer's side. I should not be too worried. I should just
right.
be able to enjoy it.
Yeah.
If it tastes good, drink it.
Exactly.
Right. You get into some of the descriptions on Beer Advocate that are like paragraphs
Oh,
long,
yeah.
and it's like, holy cow, what kind of super palate do you have?
Right.
here?
They're picking out wood grains.
or they're reading the back of the magazine before they post their description itself.
Yeah, or it's the label of some hand soap at Bed Bath & Beyond or whatever it's called. No, that's not it. That's the place you buy furniture and things.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's the place with scented soaps.
Bath and Body Works.
That's it.
I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know.
Yeah, there are too many B's in those names. But this is only my first beer, guys.
Yeah, you haven't even started drinking yet, Mitch. So let's actually, can we jump into the next one? Can we hit so this was the 0.9 Pilsner.
That is correct.
This was the one that was originally called the, what was it you mentioned
Port
just a second?
Royal.
The Port Royal
We
Pilsner.
wanted to call it Port
yeah,
Royal.
and you couldn't do that because 1,000 miles away in Central America, somebody decided one day you were going to name it the same thing and decided to grab it first.
Yes.
Yeah, that was basically it.
Yep.
So 0.9 Pilsner, clocking in 5.1. So again, around the 5% ABV range. This one has stayed bubbly the entire time. I'm just looking at
it looks
Same with
great.
you, Mitch. Yeah, this
super
is
clear.
a little bit of a foamy head on top of it. This one has stayed. Like the Bobcat Blonde that we had didn't have the foamy head on top. This one has stayed the whole time, and I think I'd venture to say probably Shane poured these about 10, 15 minutes ago. So this one's staying relatively close. Pilsners for me, typically, I haven't gravitated toward Pilsners up until recently. And it's probably a cheat, but I'm more of a hop head, so more like IPA, started out West Coast, kind of started gravitating towards the New England hazy styles. But Mitch, you started getting into Pilsners a while back, and kind of he knew that the way to get me into Pilsners was to have me try hopped up, hoppy Pilsners. So Smith & Lentz is real good at hoppy Pilsners. And over time, when I started drinking those, I really enjoyed them, and I started kind of dialing it back to a little bit. So now I'm just enjoying, German style Pilsners, Italian Pilsners, and all that kind of stuff. So
beer flavored beer.
I've been converted. Pilsners typically weren't my thing, but I'm excited to get into this one because I'm a recent convert of Pilsners.
Heck yeah. I had last night was a Blackberry Farm Brewing Pilsner.
They make a good pills.
Yeah.
I enjoy theirs. I enjoy a lot of Blackberry Farms things.
Yeah,
their Saison is one of my favorites.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah. Let's get into this one, Mitch.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Oh, yep. It's got the Pilsner nose to it that I'm familiar with.
Clean, easy. Yeah. This is good. This is a core beer. All the ones that we're having are core beers today, right? So this one's brewed year round. Also, what was the reasoning for brewing a Pilsner? I'm curious to that because was it just you needed a style for everything? So let's brew that, or do one of you guys gravitate toward Pilsners more than the other, or what was the reasoning for deciding to put a Pilsner out on the menu?
Pretty much to say, a lot of times when we go in there, you see if the Pilsner's the first thing you go after to see how clean and everything is. And that was kind of a benchmark for us to see how well we were doing.
Actually, good answer. I didn't.
Yeah, it's
I
hard
didn't think about that.
Pilsners you can't really.
They're
the
nowhere
room
too
for
high.
margin. Yeah.
Yep. That's a good way of putting it. If you screw something up, you can't mask it with more hops or with moon pies or with.
Yeah.
You know you're going to screw up a Pilsner. If you've messed up.
Yep.
Yeah. This one's tasty.
Oh, it's fantastic. It hugs the palate a little bit. Lingers.
Clean.
I like it.
5-1. So let's jump in a little bit. You guys established back in 2019?
Correct.
Okay. So how did this whole thing come together? You guys were you just brew beer and you got a phone call one day and said, hey, let's brew, or was this like built out of a passion? What started the whole BS Brew Works thing?
We were sitting around one morning and we used to meet before work, and Shane asked me what I was doing this weekend. I said, I got nothing going on. He said, we're brewing beer. I was like, okay. So we went and got our first starter kit, and it wrecked our lives since then.
So that was about almost 10 years ago.
So you had just decided you wanted to start brewing beer one day.
Yeah. I mean, Bob and I are both, we enjoy cooking and grilling and smoking but stovetop work too. And we're not just, piece of toast and I'm off for the day kind of folks. I had been, roasting coffee beans for a while and kind of got into that, but it didn't quite get me going all the time as far as trying to be creative or things different. There's only so much you can do. Yeah, there's a lot of varieties, but at the end of the day, it still comes down to coffee.
Not scratching that itch and
exactly
all the complexities.
And so actually, but by the time I asked him that question that Monday morning, I had already ordered the kit.
You didn't have a choice.
No, I didn't.
So I mean, you guys know this because you've talked to enough people. You hear that story all the time. There aren't a whole lot of breweries out there unless they're big industrial type breweries that weren't started by people who just did some home brewing, fell in love with the craft, no pun intended, and started turning out things that all of a sudden, we had people trying to buy beer from us rather than just hand them a growler or a bottle or two here and there. So we thought, well, maybe we're onto something here if people think it's good enough to purchase.
Yeah.
And no homebrewers, you can't sell beer legally.
Right.
So
I wonder, it has to be a weird feeling when people start wanting to be patrons rather than just take the offerings. It's kind of like a wake-up call at that point, right? Something of the
it
sort.
was.
That's awesome. It's always it's heartwarming to hear people just wanting to support. So that's incredible.
So you just one day had decided you wanted to just learn to brew beer just because it was something fun, and decided to get somebody else in trouble with you. And you guys brewed beer, and then just eventually decided to buy space. Or I mean, like, did you keep homebrewing for what? Like, how long did this whole process
We
go?
homebrewed for what, 5 years,
Yeah, almost 6.
and we started out in the wives' kitchens, and they kicked us out
Because they don't like that.
Yeah, went
Yep.
to Shane's back porch. They kicked us out of there. So we built a little shed in my backyard specifically for brewing, and that's where we got started.
So the systems went from smaller and just kept accumulating then, and you kept stacking on multiple kind of brewing, or did you stick to one style or two styles in particular for larger batches?
We had about 5 styles.
Um,
We experimented with some.
Yeah. We, you know, you can always, like one of our APA bases, we have 2 or 3 recipes built around it that, you know, it may only change one hop during the boil somewhere, but then get dry hopped with a completely different profile. You know, that's if you see someone offering 14 pale ales in their tap room, chances are they're not 14 distinct brews.
Right.
Their base is going to be pretty much the same, with the difference of, you know, of some hops. And you know, you can obviously go all kinds of different ways with the hops. You can move from piney all the way through the dank caddy stuff to the mango end of the spectrum just by changing hops. And are they different beers? Sure they are. They're unique because the ingredients are unique. But you know, I would be lying if I said we don't reuse some bases,
Right.
and just change a few things. It's like a difference between a cookie and a chocolate chip cookie. They're 2 different cookies.
Right.
There's only one ingredient difference.
Right. No, that makes sense. And one thing can change the profile pretty strongly. So interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, I've only done I've only participated in a few homebrews. I think you've done most of the work.
Yeah,
here.
and it's been
You've had
a
the space.
long time since I've homebrewed. I've had some good ones come out. I've had some not so good ones come out, and unfortunately, with my knowledge, it started out kind of extract brewing, and then once I decided that, you know, there's no way you can screw up beer no matter how hard you try, I decided to get out of extract and try to get into grain brewing, and was humbled very quickly
Yes.
that there's definitely a way to screw up
Absolutely.
a beer, and you
There
don't
is.
know until it's conditioned. And 2 months later, you know, you pop open a beer, you're really excited to drink it, brew it, it just tastes like ass. It's terrible.
Well, and it's, you know, as you go through the learning process, it's like anything else. You hit a forum for home brewing, just like if you hit a forum for auto repair or lawn maintenance or plumbing or anything else. The opinions and expert advice are going to be all over the spectrum. You should never do it that way. You should always do it that way. And so you really just have to find out what works best for you.
Yep.
You know, when we were mashing in coolers, just doing infusion mashes, you know, we got into the whole, you know, BIAB, the, you know, brew in a bag thing that, you know, kind of started in the Australian home brewing space, and had very good success with it. You know, other people kind of, well, you shouldn't do that, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, if it turns out good beer, who cares?
Yeah.
Really, who cares?
Yeah, leave the element in there to be surprised. You know, it's
Everyone's going to have a negative opinion regardless of what you do.
Yeah.
It's the unfortunate part of even today's world.
Man, that Pilsner was awesome.
It was good, man.
It went down a little too quickly.
You
It's my
finished
only
yours
gripe.
before I did. That normally doesn't happen. You normally don't. You normally drink your beers a little bit slower than
Yeah,
me.
That recipe started out originally. It's been tweaked just a little bit since homebrew days, but it started out as we called it our lawnmower beer.
Yeah, I could.
You know,
I
we
could jam to that.
we bumped it up a little bit on the bitterness side to get it more toward that, trying to head toward that Czech Pilsner Nirvana kind of thing. Not really so much a German style, but But yeah, it hasn't changed much since its inception. But that's kind of where it started at. Just a nice, easy drinking, not something to get you snockered.
Yeah.
And fall off the lawnmower. So
Yes.
I guess if you're not a quitter, eventually it'll get you to fall off the mower. You just got to keep drinking it.
yeah, and
Or you'll get full first.
We used to make it a little hotter than it is now. We used to bump it up around 6.2,
wow.
and we dialed it back.
That's a decent difference considering
Yeah.
where it's sitting right now, just
Yeah.
over 5.
Yeah. We dialed it back for the summer once, just so it wasn't quite so boozy.
Yeah.
It never really tasted boozy, but we dialed it back some and have just left it there.
I think it's where it needs to be.
Yeah.
Haven't tried it at 6, but it tastes good here.
No, it was awesome.
So move into I guess this is the cream ale next, the Sunny Vanilla.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cream ale. I haven't had a cream ale in a long time. This one looks tasty.
I think the last cream ale I've had,
Ooh, that smells good.
it's from a local place, New Heights Coffee
and cream.
Ale.
That is, it's really
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
And you see that can, the first time you see it, it's like, coffee cream, and you pour it, and it's light colored, and you're like, did I get the right beer?
Right, yeah.
But you see the word coffee, and you expect something dark.
Yep.
Yes.
But no, that's I really like New Heights. In fact, I think I've got some in the beer fridge in the back right now.
Nice. Yeah, their coffee and cream ale, as far as I remember, has been consistent and continuing to be good.
Yep.
Can't wait to dive into this one.
Yeah.
What was the name of this one again?
Sunny Vanilla?
Sunny
Sunny
Vanilla.
Vanilla.
It's named after the Orlinda community, which is kind of the northeast part. Their moniker is they call themselves the sunniest spot in Tennessee.
Oh.
Sunniest spot in Tennessee. Are they considered Springfield still?
No.
No.
No, Robertson County.
They are Roberts. They're just out in the county.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this little town's name is Orlinda.
I'm gonna be honest. As a guy from Atlanta, this is a little bit outside my space right now. Like I'm used to 7-lane bumper to bumper interstate traffic and things like that, and to get off on the highway and see like cows and things like that, I was like, I'm a little bit outside my element right now. But it was easy to get here. Like it was It was super good. It was a fun drive, and it's not that far away. I think we drove a little under an hour
Yeah.
to get here, right from
okay.
Murfreesboro.
Murfreesboro.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right
but-
on the Smyrna line.
Well, unless something goofy happens on 24, I can be from my house to say Germantown in 25 minutes.
Okay.
We'll plug for our local chamber of commerce.
Sure.
Their moniker is, that Robertson County, Springfield in particular, is minutes from Nashville, miles from ordinary.
Yes.
It's a good
Sounds
slogan.
about right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Accurate too.
Yeah.
Let's jump into the cream ale.
Man, I
Cheers,
already
Mitch.
did. Yeah.
Oh, you already did. Oh, okay. I'm behind then.
Yeah, no, it's great. There's hold on, I gotta dive back in.
Ooh. What's that on the finish?
I mean, a
Cream.
little vanilla tasting to me, but I don't-
Okay. It's like, what is that flavor I'm picking up? Totally
could
didn't
it
think
be?
about that.
Shiitake mushroom?
Yeah.
Not that.
There's a strong umami finish to it.
Shut up, Richard. It's a vanilla cream ale. That's
Now,
good.
Yeah, this is a fantastic.
Is vanilla typically? I've never had vanilla notes in a cream ale before, so.
Well, a lot of cream ales are almost overly sweet. often.
This is not that, though. That's always been my turnoff for cream ales. Is every time I try it, it's almost too sweet. Because when you drink a beer that looks like this, you're not expecting something that's like a flavor bomb of just sweetness to hit you in the face. And I've had cream ales that have been that before. This isn't that, so I'm very glad that this didn't turn out that way.
Right. It also goes down too quickly.
Finished yours already.
Yeah, it's really good. Following that right after the Pilsner,
That was a good order.
it's really nice.
Yeah.
It's got that sweeter lift, but it's super easy drinking. It's a cream ale. It's smoother. I don't know. It's hard to say exactly where I'm going with this, but I really enjoyed them side by side.
What was the inspiration for a cream ale? Because not a ton of breweries have those on tap, or even at all. Where did the whole cream ale idea come from?
Well, we had a couple of examples of vanilla cream ale, and had some folks, ask us when we were starting the project and looking at moving from just doing our regular jobs and home brewing, who people are always asking, are you going to make something like blah 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 blah, and
like referring to another beer or referring to okay,
yeah, exactly. Sometimes just a style, or sometimes they just say by now you're going to make something like so and so's blah blah blah, and that one was one that really in backs of our minds we thought it might be more appealing to the lady folk.
Oh yeah.
And oddly enough, it's not always that way. It sometimes a couple will come up to the bar and they'll order say we'll take a sunny vanilla and an oatmeal stout and bring them over, and then I just
assume one
invariably assume and watch them pick them up and
Swap them out.
swap them. And I'm like, you go, girl. I'm proud of you. Yeah. Dude, you not so much.
That's when you pour another stout.
Yeah. But it, it does have the vanilla presence. And once again, we talked before we started recording. We kind of specialize in beer flavored beer. It's still beer.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not a sweet cream ale. Just has that nice little vanilla note to soften it up, make it maybe more approachable for someone who's not into the more malty side of things.
Yeah, I think that hit the nail on the head of why I liked it so much. It's got that softer tone to it. It's got a sweet lift, but it's still beer flavored beer.
Yeah.
And I cannot believe how good of a transition from Pilsner to that was. It was almost like the dessert after the meal in a way, just slightly.
Yeah.
Not super different.
It's very specific, but I've never followed up a Pilsner with a cream ale.
Me neither.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very pleasant.
So we're kind of moving a little bit more towards the darker side of things now. I mean, we're not in dark beers yet, but the color is definitely changing. So we've gone from kind of a clean and bright looking beer to kind of a little bit more on the amber side of things.
Yes.
So I assume this is going to be the Barren Plains
You are correct.
that we're trying next. Okay. Barren Plains Amber, so moving up a little bit on the scale, not much, 5.25 ABV. This one looks super tasty. I was looking at this one actually when we set it down. This is the one I'm interested in trying all of them, but this one sticks out a little bit because the first three have been very light in color, and then of course towards the end here we've got the brown ales and the IPAs, but this one sticks out to me. So this is the Amber Ale. So tell us a little bit about the origins of this one.
That was when you started, wasn't it? When we were homebrewing?
Yeah, I mean these are all like original.
Awesome.
Early recipes that haven't been tweaked much. As we just ran the gamut of things, the first beer we ever brewed, which was an extract that came with the kit, was an Irish Red.
Nice.
And it was it was okay. It wasn't anything to write home about, but it was drinkable, and we made little labels for the bottles and the whole 9 yards.
Hell yeah.
Because you're hopefully you're proud of your children.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Want to be. So that just having once again something in the quiver of arrows that would hit a niche where people like to drink something with a little more malt balance to it, but still without just getting smacked in the face with anything in particular. And our goal always with anything we design is that it is as clean as possible. If it's not supposed to have some weird lingering finish, it doesn't. And that's just kind of what we've committed ourselves to. And it's really one of the best compliments we get from people, especially when they're trying beer for the first time, is it's just so clean. And that can be a process thing, it can be an ingredient thing, a combination of all those. But we always want to be our own worst critic when it comes to a design or release of a beer. If it's not something that we would willingly drink, it's not going into the public.
Right. And I appreciate that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What do you have you tasted it yet?
I have not. I'm sorry. I'm listening in. I'm just enjoying.
No,
it.
yeah, I haven't. I took a little sip of it just to get the palate started, but
It's
man,
easy.
Yeah, it's
one nostril's not working from the nose, so it's really hard.
We have
It
a
smells
patron who is a former professional brewer, moved down here from Minnesota, and he is self-explained right nose dominant. So when we release a new beer, he's got glass and he's pinching off his left nostril and burying his right nostril in the glass.
Wow.
But he is so good. I always like to run stuff by him before we release it. We have a couple of chefs, Nashville type people that come in who have really good palates, and I'll sneak things out to them and say, okay, tell me what you're seeing here or tasting here. And Scott is like, he can almost tell you what the grain bill is.
Wow.
From the aroma and taste of the beer.
Just from the aroma and the taste.
It's
It's
really
scary.
spooky.
That is spooky. That's a perfect word to describe that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm left nose nostril dominant
Left
right
nose
now.
dominant.
I can't pick up shit. That's impressive.
Still can't pick up shit. This is tasty. I'm enjoying this one. I could drink. This one to me would go really good with a burger.
Yeah.
Burger, hot dogs, just some sort of not necessarily chicken for me, but definitely like beef or pork.
Something
like this would be-
greasy with a lot of savory flavors.
I would drink just pints of this while I'm eating a cheeseburger.
Yeah.
This is exactly like this is a good go-to drink for like pub food for me. I very much enjoy this one.
Beer cheese pretzel.
Yep.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. And of course we haven't poured any of the blends. We've had customers who will ask, can you put these two together? They've had both of them individually, and they'll say, okay, wonder what it'd be like together. And so we've have some combinations that were basically customer created. To do a black and tan. We had someone who asked, mix the Sunny Vanilla and the Midsummer's Brown Ale. Okay, we'll do that, and it became so popular we just put it on the board.
Nice.
Customer wanted the Barren Plains with the Sunny Vanilla. We did that, and they named it the Biscuit because it's kind of the color of a well-baked biscuit when it's poured. So we do those things, and we experiment with some blends too. They don't always work, and they don't go on the board.
You're right.
The black and tan idea is not bad though.
Yeah.
I mean,
I could see that happening.
I don't have Guinness and Bass, so I can't
Right.
pour proper. But
But you have a good light and a dark beer that you can put well together.
Yeah.
That works.
yeah,
I like the idea of the biscuit for sure. Cream
Which one?
ale with the amber.
That one's the amber. Okay, the cream ale and the amber.
Yeah.
That was the biscuit. That one seemed to go well together.
yeah,
It does.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I guess never underestimate your customer.
yeah. The vanilla tends to bring out the caramel in
Yeah.
a little more. Lightens up the malt profile for those who are for whom the amber is a little too malty.
I didn't think that was too malty at all. I thought that was a great tasting
real
beer.
nice kind of
That's
sweeter caramel.
That's the reason I did we're on a podcast. You can see the air quotes I did around too malty.
yeah. Yeah.
We had
that-
it was like a guy who came in, what do you got that's real light? Well, we'll give him a Bobcat Blonde. He came back to the bar and he had taken, you could tell, just one sip, and he sat it on the bar and he said, I'm sorry, it's the bitterest shit I've ever had in my life.
Whoa.
And I said, well, I best not give you an IPA
Yeah.
because it would knock you out of your shoes.
Oh, that was the most bitter beer he had.
So
in
what he
his
ended
life.
up? You know what he ended up drinking?
What?
The Barren Plains.
Huh.
So you get those palates that react differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows?
It is what it is. That's just your customer. You just gotta
That is
listen
curious,
to them sometimes.
I'm gonna put that one into the mental lock or whatever. So whenever I've got one friend who's real picky about his beers. He's a twisted tea guy.
And he's picky about beer.
He wants to get into beer,
Oh,
but no
okay.
one has been able to lead him on the journey.
No one has matched the twisted tea, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's in Ashland City right now, and they just had a brewery open up a year or two ago. I think they're about to do a 3rd-year anniversary. Marrowbone, yeah.
Yes.
And he's finally kind of branching out there, and I've kind of told him start with these.
Mm-hmm.
And every time he's just like, you just need to come down here and instruct me. I don't know what I'm ordering. Like, oh my God. Just don't get Twisted Tea and get a flight. Find out what you like, man.
Hey, man, everybody's got a thing, Mitch.
Yeah.
Twisted Tea just happens to be his.
And most breweries will let you taste before you like purchase a full pour or half pour or whatever. So just taste a gamut of things till you find one that you sort of like and
try before you buy.
Further in.
Yeah.
But I don't know what his mental block is on that. But I like the idea of the guy coming back because something was just too bitter. That's super light. That's wild.
But he found something that he drank, right?
differently.
Yeah. The amber was right for him. And
Yeah.
he drank that, I assume. So.
Yeah, he had more than one.
Yeah.
That's fun when somebody who's into craft drags one of their friends in who heretofore has not been. And they just, they don't necessarily even want to try things. And so you start asking the leading questions. Well, what do you drink otherwise, other than beer?
Right.
Because they only drink one beer. And so you start going down the roads of, do they drink wine? Do they drink bourbon? What other alcoholic beverages do they drink? What do they drink non-alcoholic? How do you take your coffee? What's your preferred level of sweetness in a drink? And a lot of times, you can find something, because so many people say, well, I don't want anything dark. Well, that may be because your only experience with something dark was some really weird stout. And I say weird because it's so weird to them, not that the stout in itself is weird. And they've had some experience with some big, chewy, bitter, ashy stout, and they just immediately write off all things that aren't something you can see through.
But that's not necessarily.
But that's not necessarily true. And so if you can get them, you say, "Oh, what kind of dessert do you like?" Well, I like chocolate. Okay. Do you like coffee? Yeah. How do you take your coffee? Black, maybe with just a little cream. Why not? And so to be able to get people to try things, and you bring it toward them and they kind of recoil a little bit. It's like if you don't like it, you can go over to the trash can and spit it out.
Right.
I will not be offended, but I want you to try this based on what you've told me. And we have a lot of success in surprising people with things that they just would not have thought they liked, because we drink with our eyes, we eat with our eyes. If it doesn't look appealing to us, it's not appealing to us. So.
Very true. My wife and I binge trash TV, and part of trash TV is the chef network kind of stuff, and more often than not, they're always talking about presentation, and it's always the visuals first before diving in and tasting anything.
You'll like something more if you like the look of it, the visual aspect of it. Yeah. So I can see that as a turnoff if I'm going towards something that I typically haven't historically moved towards. Like if I'm not a fan of dark beers, because I just assume that they're always going to be really heavy and they're always going to be really sweet. And you bring me something like a I don't know, an amber ale, something like that, and I go, oh no, that's too dark. Well, why? Well, it's just I don't like heavy beers. I don't like sweet beers. I don't like dark beers. And it's like, well, this doesn't fit that flavor profile. It just has a darker malt to it. So just give it a try. And so I'm more receptive and open to that, but I know a lot of people that just won't go near it because of the visual effect of it.
Correct.
At all.
If it's not what they know or what they expect, and if it's not up to par with the typical characteristics, it's kind of,
they just won't go near it.
Yeah. Well, it's there was a guy who runs a very popular homebrewing site, Brewlosophy.
Ooh, that's a good name.
Okay. And so they do these things, these extensive things they call experiments. And they're constantly, trying just, one different variable and then putting it in front of very advanced tasters and, doing triangle tests and the whole 9 yards and coming to conclusions and making compare and contrast kind of things. Well, the guy who runs the site was invited to the big homebrew conference in Australia a number of years ago. And they wanted to do one of these experiment kind of things. And so he said, well, I can't travel with beer. hook me up with one of your best homebrewers. And so there was a guy in New Zealand who had won, awards at all of these homebrew competitions around Australia and New Zealand area. So they hooked him up with him, and what they decided to do was to brew a blonde ale and then color it with a flavorless agent and present it as 2 different beers.
Wow.
Now,
I see where this is going. Okay.
Now,
yeah.
So before they brought the beers out, they asked for some volunteers to participate in a side panel. They pulled those people out, and before the beers were rolled out, they blindfolded them. So now the majority of people who were tasting could see the beers, and they asked them to, rate the beers, write descriptors, blah, blah, blah. It's the same beer. Okay?
Yeah.
Almost every one of the people who could see the beers wrote totally different descriptions of them.
Wow.
They attributed roasty, dark,
Same beer.
Same
beer, just a flavorless
Same
color agent.
beer. The people who were blindfolded, all of them were like, there's no difference between these 2 beers. And they've done the same thing with wine, where they have taken a white wine, dropped it red, and all of a sudden people start talking about, all of these
Dry
red
and
wine
cherry.
notes and whatnot. And it's the same wine because we drink with our eyes. And that first impression,
Fun experiment.
the beer may taste fabulous, the food may taste fabulous, but if it doesn't look appealing to the person, you may not be able to change their mind.
That's so crazy how dominant the eyes are.
Absolutely.
Fun experiment. I agree.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if there's any, what do you call the fancy taster people? Cicerones.
Cicerones, they've been fooled too.
Yeah.
They don't
I'd
always
imagine.
know.
Well, I mean, like beer advocate people.
True. We're not even gonna get on that side. Let's do this. So we've got 2 beers left. Let's take a quick rinse break.
Yeah.
And then we'll regroup, and then we'll jump back on and finish up these last 2. Mitch, what do you think?
Let's do it.
All right, we'll be right back.
And we're back from our rinse break. My rinser was another beer.
They handed us another beer. 6 wasn't enough, so why not go for 7? Very hospitable, by the way. Thank you
Yes,
so
thank
much,
you.
guys. This is great. It's not often do we get a chance to try more than a flight of beers in one day, so 7 is definitely appreciated. This is the Marzen.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to know the story behind this one, because you guys don't brew it just during Oktoberfest. You brew it twice a year.
Right.
So why? Other than making us happy.
Other than making it happen. I mean,
That's the reason.
it really is the reason. I like the Marzen style. Unfortunately, in most cases, if you go somewhere and you see a Marzen on tap, or you see a Marzen in a bottle and it's March or April, that beer's coming up on maybe a year old.
Yeah. It's because they haven't run out of it yet, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's like having a pumpkin ale or a Christmas ale one day after the holiday. You don't want it
No.
there. I would rather run out
Yeah.
than have it linger past, because people their interest just falls off when the holiday or season changes. So, we did we call in the spring, we call this the Marschwanzen, which is loosely translated as March and Madness. But we don't say March Madness.
Yeah, you can't say that, right?
Like
No.
Super Bowl.
Yeah, you
for
can't-
your
the
party.
big game.
You can't do the big game Sunday.
Yep.
True.
So and of course, Google Translate bit us in the butt just a little bit on it. We have a patron who spent 20-something years military, mostly in Germany, and he's very particular because he drank a lot of really good German beer for a lot of years, and he came in and we had it up on the board, and he said, so why'd you name it that? I said, well, we're trying to stay away from infringements, blah blah blah. He said, you do realize you used the wrong word for March. I said, what should it have been? And he told me, he said, the word that's up there actually is like the verb to march, as in like military. So it's not the month name.
It's the verb.
It's a verb for traveling, in rhythm.
Nice.
You were drinking beer. Who cares, right?
So yeah, we just we like the style, and maybe it is a little selfishly that we do it twice a year, but this year we did a little countdown calendar. 17 days to Marschwanzen, 16 days to Marschwanzen, the funniest thing that happened, people try to read that word, and they do all kinds of things with it. We have one guy who calls it the Ron Swanson.
Yeah, I can see
somebody
that.
calls it the marshmallow. But the funniest one I've had was a lady who was here for an event, and she brought her glass back up, and she saw the countdown board there on the front of the tank, and she said, "What is this masochism?" and I just kind of bit my tongue, and I said, "Well, it's actually pronounced Marsh Vonson," and explained the whole thing to her. She's like, "Oh," and it was right before Valentine's Day, and I was like, "Oh." Don't know what Valentine's is like for you, but it's not what it is here.
Customer's always
plans
right,
just
Shane.
kinda came
Sorry,
out there.
customer's always right.
Whereas a wise man once said, the customer isn't always right, but they must believe they are.
I've never heard
More
that
true.
before. I've been in the restaurant industry for a long time too.
Yeah.
They must believe they are. They're not always right. but
They are not
have to-
always right, but they must feel like they are.
Okay. 2 thumbs up on the masochism.
Yes. The Ron Swanson was
The
very
Ron
tasty.
Swanson was super tasty.
I could totally see that with the Schwanson right at the end.
Exactly.
Yeah. It did cross my mind, and I was like, ha ha. Inside my mind, I was just like, oh, yeah, Ron Swanson. Good character.
We try to live by the pyramid of greatness here.
Yep.
Great episode, by the way. Love Parks and Recreation. Ron Swanson made that show, in my opinion. Ron Swanson,
yeah,
Chris
yeah.
Pratt.
Yes.
Great show.
As a quick aside, we actually have a brewery pony.
Nice.
We have a couple who have a foster rescue type
Nice.
farm up here, and there was a pony that was on a little paddock here that came up for sale, and so a bunch of people within our joggers and loggers group and some other people who all went together and contributed to the purchase of this pony. Its actual name is Al Capone. That was its given name, but we call it Al Capone Little Sebastian.
Nice.
Of BS Brew Works.
Good work. Yeah. The little Sebastian of BS Brew Works.
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
So staying on the darker side of things, I guess moving more to the dark from the Martzen is going towards the I think I looked at it just a minute, the Midsummer's Night, the brown ale.
Yes.
Is that what's next? So again, moving up 5.3%. This one looks good. It definitely stands out on the crowd from the others in the flight because it is the darkest out of the ones that we've had.
Yeah.
So brown ale, I'm interested in trying this one. This one's it's been sitting out for a while, so it's warmed up to a temperature I think would be good for a brown.
Definitely.
I'm excited to. Oh, yep, smells like a brown ale for sure. I don't know what that means other than it smells like a brown ale.
It's
So-
what we've come accustomed to. Yeah.
Is this something that? So I'm curious. Are brown ales typically popular among people? How do I? Because you get, I mean, like with craft, I'm trying to figure out what I'm trying to ask here. But there's all walks of life in craft beer, and there's people that come in that know exactly what they want, and they're like, "Oh, give me the West Coast. Oh, give me the," because I mean, like they're just hop heads.
Yep.
They know what they want, and then there's the people that come in that go, "Oh, I'm still trying new things. I want to try something, and I don't quite know what I like yet. I just want to try something." Brown ales for me have always been an outlier because they don't necessarily fit in one camp. They're always kind of like, some people will try brown ales, and depending on how you brew them, they can definitely not be sweet, and then they can definitely be very sweet at the same time. So do people gravitate towards, like, is a brown ale typically a high selling beer here, or do you specifically have a clientele that looks specifically for brown ales? Because I don't see too many. Whenever I see a brown ale on tap, again, it's always either really sweet and people always tell you that it's sweet, or it's not sweet at all. So do customers order brown ales a lot in general, or was this something that you guys just wanted to try a different recipe, so you decided that you wanted to brew this beer? And it's an open-ended question, so kind of just go with it as you see fit.
This was probably your most popular of your batch home brewing, wasn't it?
Yeah. This
Yeah,
is
this is
the
one we
this
had.
is the oldest recipe on the board.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And it has
And it's
had
had a following since the beginning.
yeah.
Really?
And it may be because there's we don't use an English style ale yeast. I think sometimes people may be put off by an English brown
Yeah.
because of that whitbready kind of yeast impartation. So we've always used a Chico strain well, caveat to that, up until about a year and a half ago, most of our ales were done with USO5, which is a fermentous Chico strain. Another quick aside on that, and this is a shout out to Bootleg Biology in Nashville.
Oh, cool.
They, amongst all the great yeast that they make, and we've used several of them, we were encouraged by another brewer, Scott from Minnesota, right nostril guy. He asked one day, he said, have you ever used? Thank you for that.
Vroom, vroom.
2-cylinder symphony.
That's right.
He said, have you ever used any of the Kvike strains, these Norwegian farmhouse strains? I said, no, we haven't. He said, game changer, dude. If you can get it, you need to try it. So turns out Bootleg had a couple of varieties. Told them what we were looking for, clean, looking for a neutral yeast. And they have one that they isolated literally from a bottle of beer out of Oslo. And so that's what they call it. It's their Oslo Kvike strain.
Okay.
It's a crazy yeast. Whereas with most ales, we would be knocking out in the fermenter in the 64, 65 degree range, and starting fermentation maybe, knocking it down a couple of degrees and then free rising toward the end. We knock our beers that are going to get this particular yeast, we knock out at 95 degrees.
Wow. He's hungry, man.
It's not odd to see cell counts in the 6 to 7 billion cells per mil. And it will routinely chew through 35 to 40 points in the first 24 hours. We had a 10-barrel batch of the Bobcat that hit 107.5 degrees because we don't control the temperature on it. We just let it do what it wants to. Yeah. And it does all of that with no diacetyl.
Wow.
When the fermentation is done, it is done.
Yeah.
Huh.
It knows what it wants.
Yes, it does.
Good enough. That's powerful, man.
And we pitch out upwards of 16 to 18 generations from harvesting, batch to batch. It's nuts.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Huh.
And so almost all of our ales, if they're not supposed to have a yeast impartation, almost everything on the board that is ale up there. And this one, there's about 17 varieties of Kvike that have been isolated. Some of them are top fermenters, some of them are bottom fermenters, some of them impart flavors, some of them don't. This one is a bottom fermenter, so technically you could call it a lager strain, but they're kind of hybrid.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Which, lagering at the end of the day really means just cold storage. And so, like the copper lager we have on the board, it was done with this yeast. As the Midsummer's is, as the Shady is, every beer you've had today was done with that yeast. Even the Martzen you just had, it was not done with the yeast. We started looking at those in our lagers. The 0.9 you had was done with Oslo Kvike.
Wow.
Not the 3470 we used to use. It was just so stinking clean.
Wow. I mean,
That was very
wonder-
informational.
Yeah, everything's been damn good.
Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff that I like to get into
Yeah.
also, because I want to get more into that process. I just never have been able to, because especially when you start out home brewing, you're just trying to find whatever's easiest and whatever works. And most people gravitate toward extract brewing, and it's just like, oh, mix the water here, pour this here, and like it's hard to fail. It really is. When you move out and do your own scratch grain brewing, and when you have to start playing with yeast strains and things like that, that's when beer really starts to open up. That's when you start hitting different flavor profiles with the same ingredients, with one or two things swapped out. Changing the yeast strain in itself is a completely different beer. And just the science behind it. I don't consider myself to be smart enough to understand all that or even know where to begin, but I enjoy hearing about that kind of stuff, because those are the stories that I never got a chance to experience when I was just home brewing.
Right.
And so just being able to hear that is fun for me.
Yes. I think
First, the beer
Brown-
tastes good.
random memory lane for me. The first brown ale, when we were talking about it, like the question you brought up about who gravitates kind of to a brown ale. First brown ale for me was a Newcastle years ago, which I don't think they're around anymore. I don't remember what happened, but I haven't seen them in years, so I don't know if they were. I don't know if
should
the
be
brewery's
brewing still,
closed
are
or
they
what,
not?
but
I don't know.
Newcastle is still out there, but I
Yeah.
think, Richard, it goes back to your point. How many people go out looking for an English brown?
right.
It's like the number of people who go out looking for an ESB.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn
And-
good beer.
I love a good
Yes.
Fuller's London ESB.
Not a popular category though.
You give me that and fish and chips.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not sexy. It's not at the top of the latest, greatest.
It's not the newest hazy IPA with
You know, not just the cutting edge, bleeding edge. You have,
Yeah.
you have to have the people who are always looking for the bleeding edge
Bleeding
of
edge.
what's going on.
yeah.
It's no pastry stout.
That's right. But you also have to know your market.
Right. Yeah.
And why is Bobcat Blonde the number one beer we sell across the bar? Because that's this demographic, and we sell a lot of it, and it enables us to go out and experiment with some other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn good brown ale, by
Very
the way.
good.
Thank you.
Yeah, not often do I drink brown ales and just really enjoy. I don't hate brown ales, but I like you said, I don't go looking for them
Yeah.
because they're not the style of beer that I gravitate towards. And it probably is because when I've tried them historically in the past, they're either been way too sweet or they're just not sweet enough. This one hits that perfect balance for me. So I can see when you mentioned, Bob, that this was his first one and probably his most popular.
Yep.
This is good.
Definitely.
Really solid beer. Good
And
work.
it's the only one we've kept up there with the original name.
Oh.
That one has stayed as Midsummer's Night the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yes. It doesn't prohibit people from ordering it as the Midnight Summer. They look right at the board and say, I'll have one of those Midnight Summers. Or the 9 point. They order the 9 point.
The
too.
9
It's like,
point.
are we hunting or are we drinking?
Well, it depends
I
on
don't
how
know.
much beer you've had, Shane. I mean,
No.
we're starting
No,
looking back.
no, it
No,
doesn't.
it doesn't, huh?
No,
Okay.
no, I've said I'm gonna. My wife does all of our boards because if we did them, we couldn't read them. She has this
Yeah.
beautiful handwriting.
She has better handwriting than you do.
Oh, yeah. And I think next time if we remake that board, I'm going to actually have her write it as Midnight Summer and see if people order it as Midsummer's Night.
Nice.
The people that are used to ordering it
I'm
that
just
way.
interested
Or if
to
it's just
see
backwards,
exactly
who
what happens.
knows? Yeah.
Midnight. Yeah, I wonder.
We got one left, Mitch.
Let's break it open.
This is the shady West Coast.
Is it too warm? It's been sitting there a while. Would you rather it be?
I wouldn't say no to a cold pour, but I'm not going to say no to drinking what I have in front of me either.
Yeah.
So,
I'll still cruise through this one, see what's up.
okay. That works for me.
Of course, I'm one of those.
Bob's getting
people
up
that,
anyway.
Like,
I'll take a cold pour. Yeah, I'll take a cold pour. Why
I'm
not?
one of those. I drink almost anything in a can, kind of warm,
Yeah.
room temperature. I'll say, like seltzers or just water in general. I'm just like, just room temp's fine.
So
But yeah, go ahead.
we did just our last episode on
Yeah.
this actually when we were sitting around and we were drinking. I was drinking. Mitch, we had the complete opposite.
Oh,
that
yeah.
night I was drinking a New England style hazy IPA, and you were drinking a bourbon barrel aged Russian Imperial Stout. Like you couldn't get more apart than the two beers that we had. And I found myself having to drink mine a lot faster because as an IPA, you don't want to let them get room temperature and things like that because you want to enjoy them a little bit cooler. Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it. But as something that's 11, 12, 13%, drinking it straight ice cold out of the refrigerator tends to hide some of those notes that you get when you let it warm up and you let it open up and things like that. So when it comes to IPAs, pale ales, I definitely prefer them to be on the much colder side. I definitely will let them warm up just a little bit because I feel like there's flavors that can open up the warmer it gets.
Right.
But there comes the point where once it gets to be like a room temperature-ish, and that's probably my fault for just talking too much, that it gets to the point where an IPA just won't taste right if it gets warm for me. So now again, Russian Imperial Stouts,
Oh yeah.
give me 55 degrees, 60 degrees all day. I'll
Oh,
drink
yeah.
a Russian Imperial Stout.
Yeah.
I feel like IPAs have to be a little bit colder. But this is the Shady West Coast IPA. and 6.9. So we're jumping a little bit.
Yeah.
We're jumping quite a bit, actually. We're moving from the 5s to almost 7. I've had my eye on this one the whole time just because I'm a hophead. I like West Coast IPAs, Bob.
All right.
This is my kind of thing.
Well, let's see what you think.
Yeah. Smells like a West Coast, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Well, even that is interesting because we've had a few people come in and they'll order that and they go, well, it's okay, but it's not a West Coast IPA. It's like, well, what part of the West Coast?
Yeah,
or
what-
of
yeah,
that
what
2,500 miles are you from?
Right.
Well, if they're from the more northern tier, they may be expecting more pine, more resinous notes. But if you get mid-southern, most of those people are like, oh, this is spot on. Just a little bit of citrus, nice bitter balance. Not a hazy, of course, but it's interesting for someone to tell you, well, I'm from the West Coast, and this is not a West Coast IPA.
It's true because there's the Stone. There's the Stone IPA, that typically leads more towards the dank side of things.
Yep.
And then there's like the Pliny, which I understand is more, I think, of a pale ale than it is an IPA, but it definitely has a cleaner taste to me anyway. It's definitely not that like super dank, weedy flavor that something like a Stone high gravity IPA will pull. This sits somewhere in the middle for me. Just me personally. Like this one doesn't, maybe I'm wrong, but this doesn't taste like a 150 IBU IPA, but at the same time, this isn't like a Pliny that's super clean tasting to me and super piney. This lit somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. Even after taking a couple sips, I'm still getting that bitter notes in the middle of the palate, middle of the tongue kind of thing, roof of the mouth, and a little bit of that mouthfeel just kind of, I hate that term, but it's a little
Mouthfeel?
fuzzy. It's a little fuzzy. Yeah. So this one gave me that, and I'm enjoying every bit of it. So,
Off the top of your head, do you know what the IBU is on this one?
Around 67.
This tastes hoppier than
it
67
does. Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because of the
Well, mine's warm.
what kind. You know what? That's a good point. That's a good point. What hops are used in this one? Because now this is kind of my territory. I enjoy talking about this kind of stuff.
Nugget, Centennial, Cascade,
Nugget hops, huh?
Amarillo. I use Nugget as a base for base bitter. And then would add on the flavors with the Centennial, Cascade, Summit, and Amarillo.
No Citra at all.
Nope.
Huh.
Not dry hopped. People had one air quotes beer expert, who had worked at a brewery in Southern California, who complimented me on the lovely dry hop profile on that beer.
Expert.
Thank you.
He's the expert.
I didn't tell him it had absolutely no dry hop.
dry
They're
hopping
all
whatsoever.
kettle hops.
Wow.
It tastes fantastic.
That does kind of surprise me though, because it has kind of a dry hop profile flavor. Like it definitely, you can smell it on the nose, but on the finish, like it just stays with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and maybe that's not necessarily dry hopping, but my experience personally, all those style of beers that have had that complete hop profile from start to finish and that stay hoppy the entire time like that has always landed with a dry hopping experience. So maybe it's just, I just don't know about that, but this is good. And it's 6.9%. It's not boozy whatsoever at all.
Nope.
It just, it's hidden very well behind the hops.
Very well. It's
Yeah.
super tasty.
I'm a big fan of it.
I would unfortunately crush this one.
Yeah.
You'd be screwed after 16 ounces if you drank
We
this
call it
one.
our brunch beer.
Brunch beer.
Brunch beer.
I like
Yeah.
that.
Oh, it's you get some bacon and eggs and that.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
It's
Oh, man.
See, and I skipped breakfast today.
I did too.
Yeah, okay.
I had a energy drink.
The
and
good news
water.
is they have Wi-Fi here, so if we open up, once they open, maybe we can just chill out here for a while.
Well, I've brought that one shareable. Should we break it open and?
Yeah, let me
Sure.
go grab it.
All right.
Okay,
We'll be
sounds
right
good.
back.
All right, we're back. Second rinse break, and flights are gone and taken away.
Yes.
We had 7 good beers today.
Delicious.
And very hospitable folks, Bob and Shane at BS Brew Works. And one of the things that we like to do, guys, is as it's kind of like a token of hospitality, is we always like to bring something from our quote unquote, air quotes, as Shane likes to say, our cellar, or something that, that we typically hold on to, because you guys taking time out of your busy schedule to come and sit down with us is something that you don't have to do, so we always appreciate that. So one of us typically likes to pull something out from something that we're saving and bring it in so that we can experience it and share it with you guys also. So Mitch, you brought this one, so
I did.
I'm not huge on sour, so I don't know much about it, so I'm going to kind of let you ride with this one if that's cool.
So I read the label and it reminded me of one thing. So this is a Yazoo Brewing Brandon backed Embrace the Funk beer postcards from Anywhere, a bourbon barrel aged sour ale. This was also a exclusive release at Main Street Liquors where Aaron Hortman.
Was this a Main Street exclusive?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shout out Aaron Hortman.
And let's see here. What their description is a blend of Saison and spontaneously fermented cool ship ale aged in Main Street Liquors Blanton store pick barrel for 12 months, then rested on apricots. Bottled on the fall of 2022. So I haven't had this for too long. I think I've held on to it for 3 to 4 months.
Are you supposed to age sours, or are you supposed to drink them as soon as they're available?
You know, that's a really good question. I don't have the right answer for
Okay.
that. But I do have several Embrace the Funks that are way old. So they could just be vinegar at this point.
Okay. Well, I'm sitting with Bob in this category. Sours are typically not my thing. During the rinse break, he's expressed. You asked him, Mitch.
Yeah.
You asked him where he sits on the whole sour line, and Bob, not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Your thing.
See what you think.
Okay.
This is quite tasty.
Did you take a sip already?
I already have.
Yeah, I had,
Yeah.
I had not read the label, so I'm glad as I was sitting here thinking apricot that it was actually in there.
You
Because
picked
it's-
up on that.
The finish is wildly apricot.
Smells.
I don't know that I would have necessarily gone Saison. We do our Saison a little cooler on the fermentation side because we want to coax more of the black pepper phenolics out of it than toward the banana fruity ester end.
Yeah.
And once again, that's kind of a throwback to the Blackberry Farms bottle releases of their Saison.
Oh, yeah.
I love that Saison. It's so
Solid.
refreshing. And so when we set out to make one, we was like, man, I want to aim for that.
There was I think it was the brewery in Memphis was called High Cotton. I haven't been in years, and when they were first opening was the last time I actually kind of went. My boss knew the brewery owners, so we went inside and we got to taste stuff off the wort and just sample things. And at the point in time, they had a load of black pepper in their Saison, and the just little bit of a pour that we got to sample, it wasn't ready yet, but there was a load of black pepper in it. I loved it with the way the beer was going. So I don't know if that's something that disappears over time in the process of when it gets ready or what. I haven't really talked about that Saison in years, but it was super peppery. And it had just a little bit of that twang to it, and it was just awesome. So
I guess
I've been always
mellows
seeking that Saison again, but when I went back, I think one time when they've been in the full throw and just got a pour of it, it wasn't the same as what I tasted. So I guess having the taste earlier in the process rather than later gave me different expectations, not being a brewer at the time. Like I hadn't touched even a home brew at that time. So process-wise at all.
Yeah.
But-
Some of those, I mean, that pepper is that's a yeast-driven thing. That's the reason that they're so temperature dependent because a different it's a couple of degrees of fermentation temperature can totally change a yeast-driven beer and lean it more toward esters than phenolics, or vice versa.
That makes sense.
So those, just like aromatics, phenolics can get a little lost over time because what you were tasting was pre-carb.
Yes.
And so, that's part of the fun of balancing when you're tasting things as they get near or at terminal gravity, or even through the midpoint, where you're checking gravities and pH as you're going along, and tasting things that you realize after the fact are not going to be there, or they're not going to be there in the same concentration or strength, or things that are hiding that are going to come out with carbonation.
Interesting.
So, it just, batch to batch of the same beer, you get used to going, the first time you taste it, you're like, oh, why is that there? Or why isn't something there? And then you realize, oh, carb's going to bring that out temperature difference is going to, serving temperature is going to bring that out, or mask it. We have people who come in and say, do you have, I wish you had chilled glasses. Why? I want you to taste the beer.
Right.
You get it so cold, you're not going to taste what we are trying to impart with this. So
right, the frosted mugs are for a reason.
For the X lights and the something high lives.
Yeah, if it's hot and you want something, you really, I understand that, but there are things you're simply not going to get at too cold a serving temperature.
True. I haven't actually tasted this yet. Have we all
Even I
done
had
it?
it, yeah.
My bad. I'm behind.
I liked it. I don't my flavor profile doesn't gear toward, like, I don't necessarily know apricot. So Shane had mentioned immediately he picked up on apricot when he took a sip of it. I don't know what that flavor tastes like. I'm not a specimen of health, so fruits and vegetables aren't really my thing. But like, I enjoy the taste of whatever it is that I had on this. It's not funky.
No,
it's not. I guess it's more tart than it is sour.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm not too far off.
I would have called this more tart than sour.
More tart than sour. And that's typically it's kind of the running joke on the show that sours for me, my first experience ever with a sour was a New Year's Eve party like 10, 12 years ago. When,
that was my fault.
Yep. And you brought over some beer, and it was a bunch of us, air quote, craft beer drinkers that were drinking, Killian's and Yingling and things like that or whatever, and Blue Moon. And
this was before we were recording.
Way before. I mean, like, we were like first apartments and houses and things like that. And Mitch goes, "Hey, I brought a beer." And he was like, "It's New Year's Eve party."
Yep. Yeah. It was the first ever Embrace the Funk.
And that beer was funky. I mean, like, all 10 of us tried it. We were like, "Get out, bitch. Like, leave this house." And it was just, not that it was a bad beer, it was just like we didn't know what to expect at the time. So I kind of written off sours since then.
Yeah, my bad.
No, it's well, yeah, it's definitely your fault. Definitely. But over time I have anytime we've tried something like this on the show, if it's more tart, then I tend to gravitate towards liking it. But if it's funky and sour, I can't go towards
I'm right there
those.
with you.
we have a friend who loves he travels and rounds and finds these little basement open fermentation guys who are just whatever the wind blows in, we'll take it. And he had brought a bunch of bottles through here when we were doing our build out, and we were sampling through, and then my older daughter he had this real fancy bottle, it's no telling what he paid for this thing. And he pours samples for everyone, and my older daughter, who would have been 24-ish at the time, she took a sniff of it and kind of wrinkled her face, and she was the first one to take a sip. And she said she made this awful face, and she said, "Tastes like cat piss and lemon peel." And it pretty much did. Even John didn't like that one. He's like, "Oh, this is horrible."
An elevated palate.
Oh gosh. That first Embrace the Funk, where they had the gathering, there's typically the bottle sharing and stuff too that takes place. People brought in some funky stuff that there's no way me, brand new to kind of that genre, could handle. It had some of the most death metal looking labels to it.
Why is it when people have awful beer, they want to share it with you?
Right.
I mean,
It's because they don't want to drink it all themselves. That's
we've
why.
had some real doozies. Oh, this thing was awful. We brought you a 6-pack.
Right.
You got to try this. Don't ever make this.
Yeah.
They don't want to drink it, Bob.
I can't drink this by myself, so I brought it for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. That's like when you go to bottle shares, everybody brings stouts, like these heavy big boys. And it's like because they can't drink it all by themselves.
Yeah.
Good times today, folks.
Yeah, this is a very pleasant surprise here. This is kind of like, I wouldn't say kettle sour, but it's like in that vein of like comfortable puckering on the palate, if that makes sense.
Didn't hurt the back of my mouth. Like, it didn't make me go, oof.
It's not warheady.
There's the train that Shane was talking about.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, we've only had one, which is kind of surprising.
Yeah. So the last part of this episode, I'm curious. Are you guys right now, because you've been around since 2019, so you guys aren't, by craft beer standards, new to the industry. I mean, like, we see there's new ones popping up every day, and to be honest, 3 years is actually a decent amount of time for a craft brewery to be open, especially ones that open like right before the COVID lockdowns and the crash happened.
The plague.
So,
yes.
Yeah, the plague. What's next for you guys? What are you focused on the most right now, being that you've been about 3 years into the game? Are you focused on just taproom and creating a family and craft beer community? Are you focused on more about trying to get further distribute? What's the plan for you guys? Or do you guys have events coming up? This is kind of like your time to talk about your tap room to our listeners, because they're going to be listening, and some of them aren't from Springfield, Tennessee, and they don't drive an hour to get to drink beer. So this is your opportunity to talk about it.
Well, we set out to create an environment that was nothing like Springfield has. Springfield's we're still one of a kind, because we're not a full-blown sit-down restaurant. There's not assigned seating. You can come in. We don't run sports and whatnot all the time. We have live music once a week on Saturdays. We literally have people coming in and meeting their neighbors for the first times. Oh, where do you live? Well, I live so. Oh, my house almost backs up to yours, because we are so cocooned in our streaming, screen obsessed culture. And so it's been really refreshing to see it happen that way, where folks come in and they're not glued to their phones. They're having conversation, coming by after work to have a couple of beers or whatever, or families coming in to play games and over a pan of nachos, or coming in for trivia night. So
it's great to be sitting here with people that don't know each other, may not even be in the same neighborhood, and you get a conversation starting, and you've got the whole bar in the same conversation. And they'll hang out and just have a good time, and then they're friends, bar friends, bar buddies. So they come in, and it's been a great thing to watch,
and a good place to meet up too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we said from the get-go this was going to be a safe space. Obviously, as a craft environment, we're non-smoking. We wanted it to be a place where a single woman could come in and not feel like it was going to be just people hitting on them, or any type of atmosphere that would make them feel uncomfortable, and we've achieved that, because we don't stand for that. In the 3 years we've been open, we've had to ask about 3 people or parties to leave, because there are cheaper ways to get drunk than craft. If you're just looking to get drunk, you're probably not going to a craft establishment. So we've been very fortunate in that we're very protective of the environment, of our patrons, our employees. That kind of any kind of behavior that is untowards or demeaning or degrading is just not tolerated, and we just don't have it. So as far as events come up, of course, we're heading into St. Patrick's Day. We'll drop our Irish Red on St. Patrick's Day. This year, the day before that, this will be our second year participating as a host site for St. Baldrick's.
Ooh. Oh, yeah.
That is a fundraiser for childhood cancer research. And these people sign up and raise money, kind of like a walkathon or whatever, but they're getting their head shaved.
And it's entertaining, because it's not just shaved. I mean, they'll put a handlebar mustache on the forehead. I mean, it is.
They're losing it. They might as well go.
Oh yeah, it is highly entertaining.
But
So
last year, 2 groups from Electrolux who compete against each other to see who can outraise, like an engineering group versus a quality control group.
Good for them.
They raised close to $15,000.
Yeah, I think
Wow.
that's right. Yeah.
That's more than I thought.
Against that one afternoon. So, and they've kind of opened it up more into the community. So we're hosting that on the 16th. So on Thursday, the 16th of this month, we'll have St. Baldrick's event going on here. And then right into that. As part of that, we've partnered with the Thirsty Goat, which is just up toward Clarksville from us. It's a pizza and craft place. They have partnered with us and 5 other breweries in this general area, Clarksville, Cheatham County, Robertson County, to do a pub crawl. So we got punch cards here. People can come by. If you go to all 6 breweries across St. Patrick's weekend, get your card punched. Then they're getting like a pint glass and a $2 growler fill at the Thirsty Goat.
Oh, fantastic.
With that return. So it's a good way for all the beers on tap that weekend will be from the 6 breweries at the Thirsty Goat. So shout out to them for putting that together. That's going to be a fun thing for us, and good exposure for all the breweries and them as well. I I don't have any hard dates on festivals that we'll be at just yet. Those are just starting to line up, and the requests are coming in. As far as our distribution, we're at some select restaurants. Our basic plan there is we get in some places where we would like to be because we like the owners or the field or the food, but it's in a close enough proximity that to us that it's a little bit of advertising, a little bit of push to get
Self-distribution?
Yeah.
Okay.
Get push people back to the tap room.
Yeah.
You know, if you like these one or two things, go try. You know, they have 12 to 14 things on most of the time. So we do a little bit of packaged. First time, started at the end of last year, we've done some package distribution to some local spots. So that's, you know, the market is so crowded, getting more crowded all the time. Wholesale is a margin game.
Oh, yeah.
To the nth degree.
Oh, yeah.
Conversely, I think it's why you see a lot of breweries opening up additional tap rooms because, you know, they can sell their own beer across their own bar. The fun part of that in this labor market is
finding people to run the bar.
Reliable labor. So there are just a lot of things at play, you know, coming in the third year and coming through 2 years of plague and whatever the economic environment is right now. So
it's a challenge.
It is. It's been, you know, dry January. I'd like to slap the person who came up with that mess.
Goodness. I don't get the dry months, man.
Hopefully, most of them are making up for it in February.
Well, you got to be like Carl Meyer down at Black Abbey, and he celebrates dry January.
yes.
Carl's a beast, man.
Yeah.
Carl's a good friend.
Yeah, I like Carl.
Yep.
God, that guy, he can talk for hours too. He is a
Wealth of knowledge.
Yes.
And just a character overall.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking before we started recording that the community is so tight. You have people like Carl, Linus Hall at Yazoo, Kent Taylor at Blackstone. You throw out a question and you just start getting answers almost immediately, either via the email chain or sometimes they just call you up and say, hey, you know, we can help out with this or make a recommendation or here's what we've experienced. And so that's such a nice part of this industry.
It's amazing. Gosh.
I like the banding together of people like that. That's what makes the craft beer community different.
Definitely.
In my opinion.
Makes us all, what's the phrase? The rising tide raises all boats kind of thing?
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Co-opetition.
Yes.
Co-opetition.
Yes.
I like that. Well, gentlemen, we appreciate it.
Well, thank y'all.
Thank you so much for letting us come down here today, sit in the tap room. BS Brew Works, Springfield, Tennessee, Robertson County's only brewery and tap room and pub food.
Yes.
And it's
plenty of room. Come by.
Yeah.
Good food, good times.
It's super great. We're here just right before open time today and shutting everything down. So if you're in the area, if you're not in the area, make the drive. It's definitely worth the trip.
Yes.
Out here to BS Brew Works. Shane, Bob, gentlemen, we appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. And we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Cheers.
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 Cheers.